Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about a big misconception I hear out there, and it's one of the criticisms I hear from the RPE type crowd when I discuss percentages and when I discuss why we have to program off of percentages of our one rep max if we want to ensure rep quality, if we want to ensure effective reps, and we want to get the most hypertrophy and most strength from the fewest number of sets possible, right? So we want to get the maximum results with the least work that we can do. And people would say, well, isn't that being lazy? And I would say, no. From a recovery end, it's superior. In other words, if I can get you as big and as strong as you can possibly get from an exercise with 5 total sets per week, why would we do 8 or 10? There's no benefit, and the downside is that it's going to affect our recovery. It is going to affect our ability to do other training. It's going to affect our ability to do other things that we need to do. We really should be looking at, can we get the most out of the least work? And that way we have reserves left that if we truly have a weak point that we really need to throw a bunch of extra work at, we have the recovery and the reserves to do so. So that being said, people will say, but what if, as if their own system isn't even more flawed, right? How you feel that day. Oh my God. But we'll set that aside and we'll take the criticism, even though it's extremely, extremely hypocritical. And they'll say, but what if your lifter holds back? What if that isn't a true max? That skews your training numbers. Well, yes, it does. What's the downside to that? Well, the downside is that you're going to stimulate less hypertrophy. If you program off of a max, and let's say your lifter hits a 300-pound lift when they were really capable of 325. So we're getting close to a 10% gap. In other words, they really came in and did 91 or 92% of their max instead of their max. And that's fairly extreme, because if we're that far off, that's about the most extreme you're going to get. Otherwise, they're truly just being lazy. Okay, let's assume we're that far off. Well, that means that our percentage numbers are up to 9% off. Well, what's the anticipated response? Let's say we then work with 5s at 80%. Normally, 5s at 80%, we're going to get about 3 effective reps. In some cases, 4. But now we're off. We're off by 25 pounds. So their 80% could be, 72%. My God. Right? And we're doing 5s with that. Well, now we're probably only getting 1 effective rep. Well, here's what I would ask. Will you grow off of that? Yes. If the training workloads are high enough, in other words, let's say you're doing, 3 sets of 5 with that, 1 effective rep each, but you're also doing multiple exercises. Because a good program, we're not just coming in and doing a back squat is the only thing we do for our legs. And let's assume you even have a lifter who maxes, because my lifter's max. We either do max work or speed work before any of this rep work for programming. But even in the speed work, well, if they've programmed that light, they're just going to be really fast. We're still going to get a training response from the speed work. And then what about the other rep work that we do after maxing and things like that? Notice all of this is in the context of conjugate styles of training, because that's what I coach, that's what I use. And I would say, if you're not using that, I really don't know what you're doing. Unless you've got a good coach who's programmed you with something different, maybe you can get away with something like 5-3-1 or whatever. But generally, I'm going to push people towards conjugate type training. But so again, when I say that these things are self-correcting, they're self-correcting in the way that I teach them, and they're self-correcting in the way that I coach them for my lifters. So let's come over to the point. Your lifter's sandbagged. Are they going to see any potential progress? Let's say that we're off of a max that's too low for the next 3 weeks, and we train off of it. Are they going to see any training response? Yes. Is it going to be minimal? Yeah, it's going to be smaller than we would want. but they're going to see some potential progress, even if it's microscopic. Now, what did we get in the meantime? They got practice under the bar. They got confidence dealing with a relatively heavy weight on that exercise, knowing that they could handle it. Okay. What does that do psychologically? If a lifter held back because they were scared to go to their all-out max, they had a hang-up about it, but now they've done a bunch of fives with 80% of their last max, and they know it's not that hard. They're getting, well, these are challenging, but they're not super hard. You're training that lifter to understand that they are stronger than they think they are. And that will build confidence the next time they go to PR. So have they lost any strength? No. So in other words, if they were truly capable of a 325 and they only hit a 300, which again, that's enough to definitely throw off our programming. Did they get any weaker in that 3 weeks? No. They retained all of their strength. They maybe even gained a tiny fraction of a strength because there were some effective reps. They built confidence, so they're less likely to sandbag it later. And what else have we done? We've done other supplemental work that has probably hypertrophied some of the weak links. So if we know what the weakest links are on that lift, let's say it's their hamstrings or their triceps or their upper back or whatever, and let's say that we've done a bunch of tricep work, we've done a bunch of glute ham raises, good mornings, whatever we needed to do. Let's say we did some upper back work. Let's say we did some safety bar work, a bunch of inverted rows or hang pulls. So we've built their upper back up more during that 3 weeks, or their tricep or hamstring or whatever is holding them back, whatever their limiting factor is. We've gained hypertrophy. We've probably still maximized hypertrophy in those weak links. Why? Because we got effective reps on their bigger lifts, and then we pushed a bunch of smaller lifts probably to failure that hypertrophy those areas. We've made progress in that 3 weeks off of a sandbag max. What's going to happen? That means when they come in, they will be capable of PRing. Now, someone will say, well, what if they just keep sandbagging forever? Well, if they keep sandbagging forever, but they keep getting stronger and bigger, and let's say the next time they come in and they hit 305, but they are really 5 pounds stronger and they should have hit 330. And then we do that again every 3 weeks. Let's say you extrapolate that out for 10 weeks and they keep holding back. Let's say we take that out to 30 weeks. We've now repeated that 3-week cycle 10 times. And if every time they added 5 pounds, and they're now hitting 350, but they're really capable of 365 because they're still sandbagging, does it matter? It matters in the terms of if they want to go to a competition later. It matters in terms of if they need to produce that maximum force. But from a programming perspective and a progress perspective, you've taken a lifter with a 300-pound lift, because that's their pussy sandbag effort, and you put 50 pounds onto what they're actually doing, even though they're actually capable of more. Have we gotten results? Yes. Have they gotten bigger and stronger? Yes. It's self-correcting. It's self-correcting if you program correctly, even if your lifter keeps holding back. Alright guys, well that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.